Hi there and welcome to Lorena's Labyrinth today. I hope you've had a wonderful week. I hope everything's going well for you. Once again, thank you for joining me on the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the colour black. It's going to be a little bit different to other videos that I've put up on colour. You'll see why as we go through it. In the meantime, just a reminder, if you would like to leave a comment and help me out with the YouTube algorithms, that would be wonderful. Thank you very much. And feel free to ask questions, feel free to put your own viewpoints up. I'm open to having a discussion about the content here that we put up as part of growing us. So anyway, without any further ado, because I have a feeling this is going to be a long one, let's get into it. So when we're talking about colour, I hope that the previous videos that I've loaded has led to some form of understanding where you understand that aura and our chakra wheels and all the rest of it, they vibrate to a speed of light. So when we talk about the colour black, there actually is no light within the black that can actually vibrate. It is colourless. And just to clarify something here, in this image, of course, I've got the human body shape as a black colour. Well, that's not the case. The human body does vibrate. It does have light throughout it. So it is not black. And this is reflected also by our aura. But when we talk about the blackness, we're talking about the space, if you like, around us that does not have any light or vibration to it. It does, though, have relevance and meaning still to our lives and how we live. Now, my understanding too, from a colour perspective, I did a bit of Googling on this because I thought, oh, goodness me, how am I going to describe this? With the colour spectrum, of course, you've got the colour rays and the chakras that you see running up the middle of this body here. They are part of the colour spectrum. Now, black, and I should clarify here, they get their colours because of their capacity to absorb and reflect light. Now, black itself does not have the capacity to absorb light. It's black, all right? And colours are also the result of what the human eye can perceive. It's got a wavelength, and these colours are visible when light exposes them, and this doesn't and cannot happen with black because, as I said, black does not absorb colour, and it certainly doesn't reflect it back. Having said that, I think I knew that many years ago because I'm Australian and lived in the remote areas where we have very hot sunny days. I've always grown up knowing, don't put a black roof on your house because what that will do, so when we say that it can't absorb light, it can certainly absorb heat. If you've got a black roof on your house in a hot area, your house is going to be really hot. So before I go into other attributes and the activity of the colour black, I actually wanted to give you some information and some conclusions that I've reached along the way through my journey and through development of my clairvoyance and this kind of thing, and just through my own reflections. And I believe these to be true, but I certainly welcome feedback and input on your thoughts around this. As far as the colour black goes, it's often very misunderstood by energy workers and even psychics because if they are new to their experiences, fear, to be good at what we do, we've got to be able to shift past fear is where I'm going. And black, we seem to have created this overall perception that black is fearful or it represents things we should be frightened of. And I'm about to blow this myth out the water, or at least provide some understanding, I think, with how black is interpreted. Now, my conclusions that I reached a long time ago was that black is a colour that is associated with freedom and liberty. And if we want to read into this colour, we can turn around and say, well, yeah, okay, in the worst case scenario, if we're talking about freedom and liberty, we're also potentially talking, because we do polarities, about potentially a deprivation or a lack of, or even feeling trapped. So, of course, there's going to be people out here, and I was one of them, I'll put my hand up to this and say, well, yeah, I turn around and I had the thought process of, but I wear black because it looks slimming, it's better for my figure. Well, of course I did, and that was because I didn't like the idea that I was a bit lumpy and bumpy and fat. I was uncomfortable with my body shape. But that's just by the by. You will also find that a lot of biker gangs, and this might be where the fear-based connotations of black comes in, they will wear black. But if you explore the psychology of those people in these gangs, most of them, they like to actually believe that they are what is called outlaws or freedom fighters or even resistance people, because they feel trapped by the society in which we live in, and they don't feel free to live the lifestyle that they want. So they flout the laws, is where I'm going. Whether or not we agree with them is irrelevant for this activity. I'm just pointing out the links and associations between black and psychology. Now, as far as black being connected to violence, okay, yeah, I would say yes, but that's because of the red chakra. It's not about the color black per se. Red is the color, and sorry, I hope you're not hearing me go click, 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 click with my little mouse here. I'm thinking and processing at the same time I'm talking. Okay, so the connection to black and violence is through the red chakra, which is where fear's survival is centered. Okay, so let's say we were talking about a violent individual. He would, I'll say he, but it could be a she, potentially has got some real fears about their capacity to survive. They feel threatened very easily. They personalize and they react to things. They're not going to be thinking things out. They're just going to be in this base survival space. So they are very, very reactive. Now, of course, that type of person is a real risk of becoming violent, and they may have black around them because they're not absorbing any of the light, if you like. They haven't made a conscious decision to live with light and love. They are stuck in this base red chakra stuff. So there is obviously a risk there that there can be violence, but it's not because of the black per se. I also want to blow a myth here, because it's something that troubled me for many years, where clairvoyance, people that were developing their clairvoyant skills and gifts, they would share from time to time things. And I'm sorry if I sound judgmental. I was judgmental about this back at the time that I was seeing it happen. They would see a black cloud around a person, and then they would feel at liberty to say, as people do because they're on their journey, I don't like that person, or I'm not comfortable with that person. I don't feel right around them. They've got a black cloud around them. And I remember I explored that because it was like, because at that time I was still developing my own clairvoyance. It was like, but that person is beautiful. And if you hold a conversation with that person, you actually feel and see the beauty of that person. It conveys through their actions. And it just didn't seem to gel with me that this beautiful person could have a black cloud around them. So then when you speak to the person that has the capacity to see, I was able to hold conversations. Well, where is this cloud that you see? Where is this black cloud on this person? And they would be able to say where it was, but they didn't understand what they were seeing. So what I was able to do was to learn and unpack the symbolism of the black cloud. What I learned was that the black cloud, if it presents behind a person, it often does symbolize that this person has survived and lived through violent times. Now, that could be somebody that has left behind a violent relationship or has lived in a violent area where there might be wars or crimes or whatever, and they have moved on, but the violence is past because the black cloud is behind them. What would be concerning for me if I saw a black cloud over somebody's head would be that there is a risk of violence to them right here and now. They're about to walk into a dangerous situation, and then, remembering we're always I'm just thinking about this. Okay, so the first thing is we really shouldn't be looking at people's auras. I say shouldn't. My preference is I don't look at people's auras unless I've got consent and permission to take a look. So that being the case, if I was working with a client and I had permission to take a look and I saw this aura, I would be able to tell them, look, there's a few indicators here, because you've also got to look at delivery. You can't turn around and scare the bejesus out of everybody when you see them. I would be inclined to say, look, I think you probably need to bump up your protection here. It looks like there's a threat to your physical safety. Currently, you might want to explore your decisions, but for the time being, let's wrap you in a bubble of sapphire blue. That would be how I would approach it. If there is a black cloud in the future for them, because you can see this with the aura as well, you can tell how far away this might be. And once again, it's a case of my beliefs run to, I'm interested to hear yours, that when we see this black cloud and it presents in a future perspective, this is because the damage can be avoided. It can't always be avoided, but when we talk about life paths and divine plans, yes, some things are predestined and some things cannot be changed. But it is my belief when the universe shows us things such as the black cloud, they're showing us for a reason. And this is because we can take an intervention. And the way I see an intervention is, in the first instance, using protective technique and strategy, and then encouraging the person without leading them. This is very important because you don't want them to walk away saying or feeling a lack of trust for those people around them. You don't want them questioning their healthy friendships and relationships. So instead, you would be encouraging them to learn to tap into their intuition and to pay attention to any of those early warning signals. So this has been a long slide. I apologise for that, but I think it's an important message. So I just want to reiterate here that when we see black in a person's aura, it does not mean that the person is evil or that they have evil intention or that they are a bad person in any way, shape or form. So the dark night of the soul is something that most people go through at some point in their life. It's being in that dark space where basically it almost feels like life, goodness me, I'm not quite sure how to explain it. I would imagine most people have been through this. For myself, I didn't consider it to be a dark night of the soul as in this evening sky. For me, when I was in the worst of it, I used to say, actually I used to have a song come into my head all the time. It was one that was a children's program, and of course I had young children, and it was basically the lines of, you've got to go through a tunnel. It's a dark tunnel and you can't see the end. And, consciously there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but you've got to get through it, But you encounter, as you're on this journey, the long, tall, wavy grass. And the song is actually, I'm going to say it, I don't know if there's lyrics online anywhere, but it's going on a bear hunt, going to catch a big one. Oh no, long, tall, wavy grass, can't get over it, can't get under it, gotta go through it. Well, this song used to play in my head relentlessly back in the day, and this was my dark night of the soul, and I got through it. Okay, we all get through it, right? But we've got to keep reminding ourselves as we go through this dark night of the soul that there is light at the other side. And this dark night of the soul is a massive opportunity for personal and spiritual growth. During this time frame, we start reflecting on the past. We start thinking about things that we did that we don't want to repeat in future, that we want to shift away from, and how we want to manifest the next stage of our life. So the dark night of the soul, or the blackness, is this reflection, and it represents a new dawn, and it offers us the capacity not just to strengthen our character, if you like, but it's kind of like having a retreat. And the other side of this, when we get to the light, that's the gateway to the creating of the new experiences. It really can test the person's strength and resolve to get through. So the black within this context of this video, from a healing perspective, is about going through the process to get to the light. It is a shedding, a letting go of. So it turns out the black video is going to be a bit longer than I thought. And bottom line is, so far, I guess, in some ways, the concepts around black is a little bit romantic. So I thought I would break it down into a practical example, and once again drawing upon personal experience. Now, without going to all the details, because it can be a long story, I did get stuck in the forest many years ago with my daughter when she was about 15, and it was horrendous weather. So I'm going to draw a picture for you. Horrendous weather, lots of clouds, lots of rain. We'd gone into the forest during a break in the rain and my car broke down, and it was freezing, I might add. Either way, I drained the battery. We got stuck in the forest, the car got a flat battery, and we had to walk home. Now, when I say walk home, we had to walk about 2 kilometres to the main road, and it felt like 15 kilometres that particular day, and it actually took us 3 hours to get to the main road so that we could actually thumb a ride, if you don't mind, back to the town in which we lived, because it was a little bit isolated. Certainly in winter, nobody would really go out to this area. Anyway, point being that this terrain, it took us 3 hours to travel, because this is what we could see. What you can see in this slide, that's what we were looking at that night. There was absolutely no moon. You've probably got more light in this image than what we actually saw that night. And that is because without the cloud cover was so immense, shall we say, that you couldn't see the stars, you couldn't see the moon. So there was absolutely no light to reflect through the darkness for us to see anything at all. We couldn't even see each other. It was that black. The road was rough with pitfalls, I might add, because it wasn't a sealed road. It was a bush track. It's what we call a bush track. So it had lots of pebbles. And because of the storms, there was bits of tree and everything else, debris lying across the road. So there was hazards there. Now, the other hazard is that had we gone off the side or the main track, we could have ended up in the bush and falling into a cave. So it was difficult, shall we say, to the least. We had to walk in pure black. Now, I learned very quickly that I could stay on the track through using my other senses. And by that, I'm not talking about my clairvoyant senses particularly, but rather that through paying attention to my feet and where I was placing the feet, I could tell if I was staying on the road or if I was going off the road. I could actually feel through my feet if I was about to put my foot down on a big twig, because of course that hurts when it smacks up at you. I was also able to tell just through sensory, if you like, how far a tree might be from my physical being, and that helped me to stay on the road, okay? But in the meantime, I was trying to hold the hand of my daughter, who was 15 and resistant, because she actually kept going off the road, and I would hear the thump and the crunching of the trees as she would go off the track. I would hear her regularly stepping on a twig and it breaking, and then I would hear her swearing and cursing because the tree has bounced back and smacked her in the face. So eventually I turned around and said to her, I became frustrated because she was getting more and more distressed and more angry, and in fact actually becoming more unbearable as, from a mother's perspective. It was like, oh my goodness, can't she just pay attention to what she's doing? So I said to her, what are you doing? Why do you keep being hit in the face by tree branches? Why are you not focused on where you're putting your feet? And she said to me, because I keep looking at the sky and waiting for the stars to come out and the moon so that I can see them. And I was like, but while you're focused on what's happening in the sky, you're not focused on what is happening directly for you right now on the path, right? And it was actually in that moment that I developed a really core understanding of the experience of our guides, our spirit guides, that they lead us on the path of life and that they hold our hand through the darkness and they take us into the light. That, all of us, that we're all on this journey and we're all headed to the same destination. We are all going to the light, and we can get there either the easy way or we can do it the hard way. Now, by that stage, I was looking for the easy way, I must admit. I also was able to work out that part of the problem, certainly for me and probably for a lot of other people, is that even though we know we've got guides and we're prepared, we will say, I'm happy for them to lead and guide me to my destination and my divine plan, that sometimes along the way on this journey of life, that we actually start to think that they don't need to hold a hand anymore, that we actually know what we're doing and we're fine, like my daughter. And every time she let go of my hand, that was the moment she would walk into the forest and get hit by a tree branch. So for me, it was like learning. I must learn to hold on and stay holding on to their hands as I go through this journey, because when I hold their hand, the journey is far more peaceful. Now, the other core take home message I took through this experience was that we do need to be grounded as we walk this path. If we spend all of our time looking at stars, then we're just going to keep banging into obstacles. So this was a truly amazing sensory experience for me. And walking through this dark night of the soul, which turned out to be a physical one, all of my sensory skills came to the fore. I acted intuitively. And at one point, we came to a fork in the road that we couldn't actually see, but which I was aware was there. I knew consciously at some point in time we would come to the fork, and I couldn't actually remember which fork we needed to take to get to the road quicker. I knew one way was short and the other way was long. Now, that reached a point where we started to argue, my daughter and I. She was trying to say, take the right fork. And my whole gut instinct and being was take the left. The left is going to get us quicker there in this particular context. And then the mother and me just thought, you know what, I'm so tired of fighting with her. It's been nearly 3 hours of listening to her whinge and complain the whole journey. I almost caved. I almost gave in as the mother and almost said, all right, we'll do it your way. I thought if it brings peace, we'll go her way. And I started to walk with her. I thought, I just can't do it. And I just turned around and said, nope, that's it. We're going my way. I said, you can follow me or you can walk this path on your own. I said, but I'm going up the left fork. So, of course, she moaned and complained and tried to keep up with me in the darkness, but she kept up and we got through. Within about 3 minutes, we were on the main road. So I had picked the right fork and I'd followed my guidance, which was brilliant. So anyway, hopefully that's a little story that might help you there. So the black is about new beginnings, okay? And just to carry on a little bit from the previous story, the reality is as we come out of the blackness, this darkness, we come into the light, and the light is so much brighter. It is so much beautiful, lighter, brighter, more loving than ever before. And this is the beauty of the darkness of the soul, is because we come into this new beginning. It's a closing of the door to the past, and it is an opening of the door to the future. And what else can I say about this? Okay, it is through going through this darkness that we learn at a core level how to access our gifts, and we become able to access that divine wisdom that often lays latent within us. And, you know, we can actually, there's an activity that we can do to help us draw upon the wisdom, if you like, to illuminate our wisdom and senses. And that illumination is symbolized also by the moon. Now, the moon takes us back, of course, to concepts of feminine and masculine, because have you heard the saying Mother Moon, you know, or the goddess is associated with, or the goddess principles are associated with the lunar cycle and intuition. So in this activity, once again, it's simple. Just give yourself permission to connect with the black ray, to the energy of black, and to allow yourself to access the gifts that have remained dormant within you or within the aspect of shadow self. Imagine yourself in a darkness and ask the divine wisdom to show you what it is you need to learn from the shadows to assist and support you in this journey of physical life. And as you ask, allow yourself to feel your faith being strengthened as you receive the gifts. Make the invocation here, which is, Divine Creator, I invoke you to infuse me with the strength, wisdom, and courage to allow me to embrace and learn from my shadow aspect and maximize my capacity to carry love in my conscious and physical existence. Thanks be. So that's what you would do. And you would repeat this activity as often as you feel compelled to. So, my friends, a little longer than the average one, but having said that, I hope I've shared some really helpful information based on my own experiences with you, that it's something that you can benefit from. So now I'm just going to say, love you, leave you. Thank you for being part of my journey. Don't forget to click like if you like the content. Don't forget to make a comment if you want to know more, if you want to have a chat. I'd love to engage with you. But for now, I'm going to say, to-ra for now. Catch you next on the next video. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye for now. Take care.